Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Experience Sharing Online Workshop. My name is Dennis Ma. Here with me today, guest speakers are Cheryl Robbins and Albert Chou. Experience sharing is not lecturing. It's not about one sentence teach you one thing and more sentence teach you more. We're going to use our guest speakers' personal experience and then to share with you and to give you some idea about how to become a successful English tour guide. So today, we're going to begin with the topic. It's about how Western people view Taiwan and why. We always know how to present Taiwan, tell people how beautiful Taiwan is, and many good story about Taiwan. However, we don't know how the visitor think. So we are lucky today. Today we invite a native speaker of English, Cheryl. She has been in Taiwan so many years. Of course, her native language is English. And also, he was going to talk about the concept of the niche tourism. How can we introduce Taiwan and teach her the best part of the Taiwan? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Cheryl Robbins.
It's very wonderful to be with you today and to be able to share some of my experience with you. Actually, even today with so much information technology, so much information is available on the internet. But still, in the West, Taiwan is not very well known. Oftentimes, people may not even know exactly where Taiwan is, or they often confuse it with Thailand, because Taiwan and Thailand sound quite similar. Now, I specialize in private tours, tailor-made tours, mostly to Taiwan's indigenous areas, and I'll be able to talk about this part a little bit later. So most of these people contact me directly. So they have some concept about where Taiwan is and about what they want to do in Taiwan. But I've also had the opportunity to lead Taiwan Tourism Bureau tours. Usually these are media tours or travel operators. And oftentimes these people are coming to Taiwan for the first time. And they're maybe staying for 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 days. And I usually like to ask them a few questions to do a survey, nothing scientific or formal or academic, but I like to ask them, before you came to Taiwan, since this is your first time to Taiwan, what was your impression? And so usually there's 2 answers. One is they have no impression. They don't have any idea about what Taiwan is and what they're going to see here. The second impression is that Taiwan is full of factories. Many people know that a lot of computer parts, semiconductors, there are wafer fabs here. So they know that a lot of manufacturing goes on here. But so they imagine that the country is just full of factories. Now, Taiwan does have a lot of factories, but there's, of course, much more to Taiwan than just that. Now, after they've been in Taiwan for a few days, I like to ask them one more question. And that question is, now that you've been in Taiwan for a few days and you've had a chance to see some of it, what surprises you the most? And so for this one, the answer is always the same. They're most surprised that Taiwan has mountains. This is very interesting because Taiwan is mostly mountains, as we know. But people outside of Taiwan have no idea that Taiwan has so many mountains and so many high mountains. So this is very strange, I think, for those of us who have been in Taiwan for a while. But why is this? So a lot of times this is just about promotion. You know, last year we were, the theme for tourism last year was supposed to be mountains. But unfortunately, because of the coronavirus pandemic, we didn't have that opportunity to really promote Taiwan's mountains to the outside world. So I hope that this topic, this theme will come up again, because I think it's a very important one. And I'm going to talk about niche tourism in a minute. And I think mountains play a very important part in that. I think sometimes the message about tourism in Taiwan maybe isn't always culturally appropriate, because the kinds of messages we like to receive in the West are quite different from those in Taiwan. We like messages to be very direct and very simple. When we're looking for information, we like it to be easy to find. We like it to be in depth. We like it to be well organized. And so sometimes this can be quite difficult, because information in Taiwan in English is not always very easy to find. Okay, but I think this is a little bit kind of a pity, I guess, because I think if you ask any foreigner who's lived in Taiwan for a long time, they will tell you Taiwan is very competitive in tourism, in many niche markets. Now, let me talk about niche tourism a little bit first, so that everyone knows what I'm talking about. So niche tourism means usually tourism that's around some kind of theme. And I'm going to talk about some themes in a minute. So it's usually a smaller market. Maybe not everyone wants to do this, but there are definitely a group of people who are willing to spend their time and their money because they have a particular interest, and they like to follow their interest when they travel. Okay, so what are some of the niche markets where Taiwan can be very competitive? Okay, I think most people will think about the first one is food. Actually, there's a lot of promotion going on overseas about Taiwan's food. But I think if the marketing can be more focused on what we call foodies, people who are food bloggers, or people who own restaurants, I think this is a very, very good niche market. Now, the next one, we talked about mountains. Usually when people tell me that they're most surprised by Taiwan's mountains, how many they are, how tall they are, then usually they will ask me a question. And that question is, well, are there mountain activities we can do? And of course, you know, there's hiking, there's paragliding, there's river tracing. And I know right now among many foreigners living in Taiwan, we really hope that Taiwan will develop its mountain biking. Right now, there really isn't any mountain biking. There aren't really any mountain biking trails or paths in Taiwan. And I think this is where Taiwan, because it has so many great places where people can mountain bike, that this will become a very popular niche market in the future. And of course, my specialty is indigenous culture. And then we have other cultures such as Chinese culture. People are interested in Chinese medicine, in going to temples, in fortune telling, and studying Chinese. I always like to tell people that I think Taiwan is a great place to study Chinese. And the reason for that is because you can study the phonetic symbols. Phonetic symbols are bopo, mofo. And I think that's how I studied Chinese in Taiwan. And I think that's much better for your pronunciation than romanization, using Hanyu romanization. And you can also study the traditional characters and then learn the simplified later, because it's much easier to go from traditional characters than to simplified than the other way around, right? So, and bird watching, there are many endemic species of birds in Taiwan that people are interested in viewing, and migratory birds as well. Photography is another one because of Taiwan's diversity. I actually met a Japanese photographer living in Taiwan. And he told me that one day in the winter, he was diving in the morning in Kending, and in the afternoon, he went to Hehuanshan to see snow. Taiwan is really one of the very few places in the world where you could see such diverse scenes in one day. You don't have to travel very far to go from city to country, country to city, mountains to coast, coast to mountains. Is all quite easy to get to. And then, of course, plants and geology. Taiwan has, so many geological sites, so many different plants that are endemic to Taiwan. Drinking tour. And I'm talking about, Taiwan is really doing very well in many liquor, alcohol. So whiskey. A lot of Westerners know about Taiwan's award-winning whiskey. And, there's more and more award-winning wineries, meaning grape wine. And Taiwan has so many kinds of fruit wines. And of course, gaoliang. And so you could really take people on a very interesting drinking tour of Taiwan. And scuba diving. And of course, this year, cycling is the theme. Now, actually, a lot of people, because the average vacation time they have off is about 2 weeks. So some of them are very interested in doing around the island cycling tour, because that is something you can finish within that 2-week time. Now, notice here that I didn't mention anything about night markets. Actually, Taiwan does a lot of tourism, a lot of promotion about night markets. But actually, maybe people might want to see one, but it's actually not as interesting to Westerners as maybe some people think. And then one more area is that more and more people are talking about in Taiwan now is dark tourism. Dark tourism means places where maybe not such happy things have happened. This could have been natural disasters like earthquakes, could be man-made disasters like war. So in Taiwan, places that maybe are related to 228, to Typhoon Morakot, to Wusha incident. So these are places that people would be interested to know about some of the darker history of Taiwan. Now, people who like to go to these places, to such places, it's not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just they believe that it's very important to remember such history, because if we don't remember, dark history will keep repeating itself. So it's very important that we go and we visit these places and we understand and then we remember what happened. So why are niche markets very important? It's because in these markets, usually people will tend to stay longer than general tourists if they're on a niche tour. So if they're coming for any of these kinds of themes, and of course there are more themes here that I can add, but I will keep it simple for now. And they usually tend to spend more money than the average tourist. So these niche markets are very important. So really, I can recommend to you to develop a specialty, a niche. Oftentimes, people who are new to being a tour guide will contact me and ask for my advice. And one of the things I say is, if you have an interest, whether it be in cycling or photography, or you can develop that interest, because anytime any client will come and ask for that particular interest, then people are going to think about you and they're going to contact you. And if you have more than one, that's great. But follow your passion, what you're interested in, and develop a specialty or more than one specialty. Now, I just want to finish this topic by talking about maybe what people are going to look to be doing after the pandemic ends. Right now, people in US, UK, are thinking about where they can go now that many have been vaccinated. And from research, I've been looking at research in North America and Europe, about the travel industries there. And so from their research, they say that people during the pandemic, because we have to stay, social distanced, that people have done hiking, they've done cycling, because these are things you don't have to do in groups. So they want to continue. They will want to continue to do these things even after they can travel freely. So they're going to want to go hiking. They're going to want to go cycling. They're going to want to be in nature. They're going to want to stay away from the cities. They're going to want to stay away from famous places because those places will be crowded. And so right now people are still a little bit afraid of being in very crowded places. So they're going to be looking to go to off the beaten path or destinations or hidden gems. Means places that are really interesting or really beautiful, but maybe not that many people know about them. Okay. Now the other thing is people are going to want to do what's called VFR. VFR stands for Visiting Friends and Relatives. And so they come to Taiwan, but they're here for a while, so they want to go on a tour and see more of Taiwan. They're going to want to be in small group tours, not big bus tours, because again, they don't want to be with too many people. Tours to do with wellness, spa tours, maybe yoga retreats, things where they can relax and be in a beautiful environment, also away from people. And then workcations, because people are still going to be working remote for a while, I believe, but they don't want to always stay just in their home. So if they're able to work completely online, they can just take their computer with them and they can travel to another country and work in another environment. So also if, in addition to developing a specialty, we should also be thinking about where we can take people once they start coming to Taiwan again. Other than Taipei, so places outside of Taipei. So maybe during this time, we can start to do more research, see what kind of interesting places there are that maybe we can introduce to people. And maybe discover on our own. As the more we discover about Taiwan, I think the more we become passionate about it. And the more that passion rubs off onto our clients. Okay, so I think I will stop here for these two topics.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. So Cheryl mentioned about one important point to answer how Western travelers view Taiwan and why, which is the destination image. You know that from the Western point of view, Taiwan during the 90s, during the 80s, 90s, so we have a lot of manufacture. So we export a lot before China was open. So people view Taiwan as a manufacturing island. So I remember 20 years ago when our government first wanted to promote tourism. So Tourism Bureau, and they call all the travel agents and the professors to have a seminar to discuss how can we promote Taiwan to the overseas visitors. So, and then inside the seminar, a lot of talking. Okay, people mentioned about Taiwan is the weakness about Taiwan is our destination image. Because people, when we talk about Hawaii, people think about beautiful beaches. When we talk about Europe, Switzerland, we will see the beautiful scenery. And then France, we have a lot of beautiful cultures. And then when we talk about Taiwan, people think about manufacturer, the bicycle, umbrella, okay, jogging shoes, and people do not think Taiwan is the travel places. So therefore, the suggestion is that we can introduce something about the people, because many travelers come to Taiwan, and they feel that the people in Taiwan are very friendly. So therefore, we come out the conclusion with the first slogan of our tourism is Taiwan touch your heart. It to let you know the people in Taiwan are very friendly. When you come to Taiwan, it will touch your heart. This slogan has been used more than 10 years. And then Taiwan become well known for tourism. And then later, another marketing expert from England, they proposed another slogan. He said, we know about the people. However, we want to let other people know the importance about Taiwan. But people know Taiwan is small. However, our location is very important. So therefore, we come out with the slogan is Taiwan, the heart of Asia. So this to let people know the importance of the Taiwan. So therefore, I think our guest today give you an idea that when we want to promote Taiwan, think about the people's point of view from outside, not just think about by ourselves. The second idea, her suggestion is the niche tourism. We know the niche market is very small, narrow. So we focus some of the things that, so in management, marketing, people give you some of the principles that if you want to compete with other people, like mainland China is so big, and Japan, Korea, but in Taiwan, so we want to focus something special, something that we have that they don't have. For example, several things, the food and the mountain and the several things that, of course, later Cheryl will talk about the indigenous people. She is an expert studying for the indigenous Taiwan for many years. We expect your excellent idea. So when we promote Taiwan, we want to talk about the interesting part of Taiwan and also the tourism spot and for the international visitors. So next, we have an expert for 10 years of the tour guide experience. Used to be the captain in the Navy. He used to be studied in the United States. So he's going to share with us the important information from the visitor point and the important notes for the visitor during their trip in Taiwan. Okay, let's welcome Albert Chou. Albert?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Albert, and it's will be honored to sharing experience with you. The interesting part of Taiwan for international visitors for my past 10 years experience. They probably will be mentioning about the population area size, geography, climate, culture, agriculture, semiconductor industries, education system, economic, and also will be mentioning about the Aboriginal tribes. Or maybe we can say this will be Australasian tribes. Taiwan have the area size will be 36,000 kilometers squares. We have the population will be 23,500,000 persons. In Taipei and New Taipei City, we probably have the people person can be reached about almost about 6,700,000 persons in these areas. If the person will be elected for the president, if he can be winning in the Taipei and the New Taipei City, he probably have a very big probability become a president. For the geography, we have a 2/3 area with the mountain, and we have the peak over 3,000 meters can be reached about 258 peak. From the north, we have the Snow Mountain Range, and this Snow Mountain Range is very important. Just created the longest river Zuoshui River will be 187 kilometers. And also will be the Dancer River will be 138 kilometers. And also we can find the best spring water from the north to the mid of Taiwan will be in this mountain range. Then will be Jet Mountain Range, and it's have the highest mountain, we call it is a Jet Mountain, will be 3,957 meters. And then will be Artisan Mountain will be extended to the south of Taiwan. On the east of this three mountain range, we mention about the Central Mountain Range. It will be have average height about 2,500 meters. It just became a protector for Taiwan. Since we are located in the typhoon areas, every summer we also will be meet a lot of typhoon. But typhoon cannot occur in this Central Mountain Range. So maybe will be damage the east part or west part, but they cannot damage all the part of the Taiwan. The most interesting mountain range will be the East Coast Mountain Range, because it just became a boundary between the Euro-Asia Plate and also mixed with the Philippine underwater plate. It's will be still rising, just like in Taiwan we have found more than 10,000 historic sites. And Bashan Cave will be the most interesting part, because the orders will be on the top. Top level, that will be mentioned about 15,000 to 30,000 years ago. And the mid layer will be mentioned about 6,000 to 15,000 years ago. And the bottom layer will be mentioned about 3,000 to 6,000 years. Because this mountain still will be rising every year, so the oldest one will be on the top. And in Taiwan, we might be simply just divided. We have two climate, will be semi-tropic or tropic climate. But actually, we have a lot of mountain. For this mountain over 2,500 meters, we call the freezing zone climates. It also will be mixed grass, and also can be mixed snow during the winter times. And from 800 to 2,500 meters, we call the temperate zone climates. That's why in Taiwan, we have a lot of temperate zone climate, fruit and vegetable. Like the pears can be extended from the May until to the next year, February, and sometimes maybe will be earlier, so about in the January. And since the mid of Taiwan is passing by the tropical concern, for the 800 meters on the north of the tropical concern, we call it as a semi-tropical climate. For the south of the tropical concern, below 800 meters, we call it tropical climate. And for the agriculture, the most famous one will be in the Tyne. We have the World Vegetable Center providing more than 168 countries for the different areas of vegetable seed. And we also have a lot of fruits can be seen every season. That's why the people in Taiwan, we are just like eat fruits, because every season can be simply found banana, pineapple, or everything. And for the semiconductor industries, we started from the vacuum tube and solid state. Then 1980, we entered in for the integrated circuit. Until now, we probably will be providing most important IC product, and will be for the computer, cell phone, or even for some military requirement. That probably will be nearby about 90 to 95% is manufacturing in Taiwan. For the education system, we studied from the 6 years, and in 1971, we studied from the 9 years. Then will be changed about 12 years for the national education system in Taiwan. For the economic, and we probably from the 1970, we just creating the world factory and manufacture everything will be the most cheapest and reliable, depend on the price. We used to be produced a very cheap one, but not reliable. But now we just produce more high value and most important manufacturing factory is moving to the Southeast Asia or mainland China. But the businessman still will be the Taiwanese. And the most interesting part in Taiwan, we have about 540,000 Aboriginal tribes in Taiwan. They can be divided about 16 tribes. We call this Australasian tribes. Taiwan will be the north boundary. And after 2011, from the DNA research, we found that the Maori tribes in New Zealand, they also will be a part of the Taiwan's Aboriginal tribes because they have the same DNA. And to the east can be reached about the East Island, and to the west can be reached the Madawaska Islands. But they can be sharing a very, very wide areas because they're just using the way to observe the wind of the Lake of the monsoon, and also watch the whale sailing, swimming, and found the ocean current. So last 5 days can sailing a long distance, and also they use the wind, and also use the combining weight of the wood, make the canoe more bigger, then can be sailing a long distance. So this will be some interesting part for Taiwan.
All right, so the Taiwan, of course, there will be a lot more. Okay, so but he did mention about several very important things. Is the creation of Taiwan because of tectonic movement. The island, the formation of Taiwan, made this small island in a very special, different from the other places. Is that this island, in the very short distance, okay, because the island is not so wide. So in the very short distance, in very short distance, then you can reach the higher mountain as high as 300 to 4,000 meters. And also in the east coast of Taiwan, face the Pacific Ocean. So if you're off the coast, about within 10 kilometers, the water will be very deep, up to few thousand meters. So all kind of this kind of make Taiwan a very special island. Of course, there are history, okay, a lot of history that we can read about. But don't forget that people are more interested in the contemporary things. For example, we have agriculture. Okay, in Taiwan, we have the best fruit in the world. You're in Taiwan, you don't know. If you go to outside of Taiwan, many places, most of the beautiful fruit, they are imported. But in Taiwan, no. We grow the fruit in Taiwan. We also export. So a lot of agriculture. And also, I remember my friend from outside live in Taiwan. They always said, so I like to cook. And when I go to the market, a lot of choices. We have different kind of vegetable. In many countries, they only have cabbage, potato, and tomatoes, the things like this, and cucumbers, a few things. In Taiwan, we have a variety of the vegetable, also freshly grew, pick up every day in the morning time by farmer. And also Taiwan is the island is very small. So the good thing about Taiwan, according to the expert, they have done the study. Taiwan, the good thing, the best part is not the manufacturer. It's the logistic. Logistic is that the people can deliver things to you very efficiently, quick way. If you want a small thing that people can deliver to you, then that makes Taiwan, the island manufacturer, easy. I live in Yonghe, the small town in Yonghe. Without going out of Yonghe, I always joke, if I want to build a house, okay, or building, I don't have to go to outside Yonghe. The supplier within the Yonghe, they supply everything to you. Okay, so all the building material, then all the furniture. Then you made a call, they will deliver to you. So the things like this are very special that we can introduce to the guests from the outside. And also another very world famous about Taiwan is our semiconductor. In Taiwan, semiconductor, we have the leading industry in the world. Okay, so if you open up a computer, 50% of the computer chip are made in Taiwan. Even they are made in other countries. Okay, and also Albert did talk about a lot of economic things, and then also one thing about for the visitor is we have a lot of convenience store, open 24 hours. So wherever you go, you go to Taitung, you go to Hualien in the evening time. If you're in the midnight, if you want to eat something, you can find a convenience store. That won't happen in other countries. I used to in the United States. When I was in the U.S., when I want to eat the bubble tea, I need to drive 1 hour to get one bubble tea. So it's very convenient. So one day you can do only one thing or two things. But in Taiwan, no. We have a small area, but we have almost everything. It's very convenient. So this first section, we talk about the niche tourism and how to introduce the Taiwan to Western people, and the interesting part of Taiwan for international visitor. So next section, we are going to talk about the indigenous tourism and also the habit from other countries, the cultural difference between other countries. Okay, so let's take a break, and we'll be back after 5 minutes. See you later. Hello, welcome back to the Experience Sharing Online session. My name is Dennis Ma. Here with me today, we have the guest speaker, Cheryl Robbins and Albert Chou. So today's topic is about how to become a successful English tour guide. We are here in Taiwan. English is not our native language, and then since we are from the junior high school and university, we all learn. We all have the English lecture. However, still using English as a tool of communication is a challenge for most of the us. Okay, so so today we use experience sharing and using English. It try to share with you a very important concept. It let people let you know that English is just a tool of communication. However, in communication, there are a lot more than the language. And in reading, we said read between the lines, meaning that you want to catch up the meaning of the word. There are a lot more idea behind the information people deliver. So in our section, experience sharing, it's like this. So our guest speaker share with you a lot of idea. However, this idea can just give you like an example. In the future, if you have the similar situation, that you may use it. And also, we talk about the people from the outside of the country are the people, when we learn English, the people's language, not only learn about their language. Also very important, you want to know about their value, their mentality, the way of the thinking. And in this case, that you can communicate with them. And also a language of communication, not only about the word you said. There will be a lot more, like the verbal, non-verbal, and some of your gesture, your tone, and a lot more things that also can communicate with people. So our next session is talk about two topics. One is going to talk about the indigenous area of Taiwan, and also we will talk about the culture difference between different nations. So we are lucky today that we have the Taiwan indigenous peoples expert, Cheryl. Cheryl, we're going to introduce about indigenous area in Taiwan and how to introduce the Taiwan indigenous people to the visitor. Cheryl?
Thank you. I'm very happy again to continue to share some of my ideas with you and my passion with you, which is Taiwan's indigenous culture and Taiwan's indigenous area tourism. Now, before I start, today isn't an English class, but you'll hear me use indigenous all the time, but some people may also have heard the word Aboriginal. So maybe confused about what's the difference between these two words. Okay, this is something that I guess we can, this would be what we call PC. PC means politically correct, or what is polite to use. So in the past, Aboriginal was the more commonly used word to describe 原住民. But now most countries use indigenous. Not all, but most. And this is also true in Taiwan. So indigenous is considered the more polite term than Aboriginal. So I encourage you to use indigenous when talking about the people who first lived here. Okay, and in some countries you also hear First Nations. Now that is because some indigenous groups have become autonomous, so that they have their own nation, meaning they have their own government within a country. And I'll talk a little bit about that when, in just a minute, when I talk a little bit about travel to the United States or to Canada, where there are many autonomous Indigenous groups. Okay, so let me first talk about how Indigenous tourism in Taiwan compares with that of other countries. I often have the chance in Taiwan to travel to Indigenous communities and talk about international markets, how to develop itineraries for international travelers, and I mean Western travelers, and what they expect, because Western travelers aren't Taiwanese travelers, they aren't Asian travelers, so they have a different set of needs, a different set of expectations, and they also have a very different level of understanding about Taiwan's culture and history. Okay, so one of the questions I like to ask when I go to Indigenous communities is, before the pandemic, travel to Indigenous areas around the world was very, very popular. And so I ask the question, why do you think that is? And so many people answer me, because it's cheap. No, absolutely not. Indigenous area tourism in every other country except Taiwan is actually very expensive. That is because it's considered niche tourism. So if you were listening during the first session, I talked a little bit about niche tourism. So usually niche tourism, people are traveling in very small groups. It's much more in depth. And so it's a much higher price than if you're on a big bus where you just go to one place for a few minutes and take a photo and leave. Now, why is it expensive? Okay. The reason is that it's seen as very valuable and powerful. What do I mean by that? People around the world, we know there's more and more people who are suffering from depression, from anxiety, and just feeling very unhappy. And a lot of that, I think, is my own opinion, it stems from a feeling that we have lost our connection with nature, with the land. And so people think that being able to interact, to meet with Indigenous people and understand some of their traditional knowledge, through this, they can understand how to get that connection back, and that will bring back their happiness. So this is quite powerful. The Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada, they've put out a series of videos called The Power of, they use Aboriginal for that, The Power of Aboriginal Tourism. You can Google that if you like, The Power of Aboriginal Tourism, the Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada. So basically in these videos, they interview local Indigenous guides as to what they think the power of Indigenous area tourism is. And so for them, they believe that it creates connections with people. So they are Indigenous people, and then there are people coming from all over the world to learn about their culture. And this creates connections. And it also creates connections with the land, just as I mentioned. Now, they know that also what people are looking for is what are called immersive experiences. People actually want to experience Indigenous life. So when I plan itineraries for my clients, interaction with the local people is a very important aspect. Interaction is one of my key words when I prepare itineraries. It's basically what people want to do when they go to Indigenous communities is they want to know how people live their life, how they're living their life now, and how they lived their life in the past. They want something very authentic. So in Taiwan, Indigenous tourism is seen as something entertaining. You go there and the people dress in their traditional clothing and they sing and they dance. Okay, that's not authentic. And that is what most Western travelers do not want. So they want to have a chance to talk with people. They want to have a chance to eat with people, to laugh with them. And you know, one of the reasons that such interaction is so important is not just learning from each other, but it's something that people will remember for a very long time. I'm sure as tour guides, we all love to travel, and I'm sure you have all been to some beautiful places, whether in Taiwan or in other countries. And your first thought when you saw that place was, wow, this is really beautiful. You were excited. But not long after, you probably start to forget what that place actually looked like. And then you have to start to go through your cell phone or your camera, you know, start swiping through and say, yeah, that was pretty. But it's already not that same level of emotion. But if you meet someone who makes you laugh, makes you cry, really touches you, you're going to go home and you're going to remember that, and you're going to tell that to all your friends and relatives, and they're going to want to have a similar kind of experience. So this is also why this is very powerful. Now, the other thing is, in many other countries, not all, but more and more people are understanding that Indigenous tourism should bring economic benefit to the Indigenous communities themselves. Taiwan, with its big bus domestic tourism, is actually somewhat, we can call it even a little bit exploitation, because it's not really the communities who are earning a lot of money from this kind of tourism. And with so many people going into communities, there's also some experiencing of destruction of culture, destruction of the environment. So this is very, very serious. Now, Indigenous community tourism should also bring dignity to Indigenous people. But because the big bus tourism, as I said, people can only stay for a very short time. There's not enough places in the community for one tour bus, 2 tour buses, 3 tour buses to stay. So they maybe can only stay half a day and they leave. So there's not a lot of time for interaction or education. And so a lot of time domestic tourists will bring their negative stereotypes into the community, and they will leave with their negative stereotypes still there. So actually, tourism is also a kind of education. So I think for us as tour guides, it's really important for us to facilitate, to be that bridge between our clients and the local people. Now, the other thing, for tourists themselves, one of the advantages of Indigenous area tourism in Taiwan is that it's very accessible. So as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, is that there are autonomous Indigenous groups in other countries, and we call those nations, not tribes. In Taiwan, Indigenous people are working towards autonomy, but not yet achieved that. But if you go to America or Canada, here's what happens. For example, I'll share with you a story. I went to the Navajo Nation. So the Navajo is one of the largest Indigenous groups in America. But if you want to drive to the Navajo Nation, there are larger roads that you can drive that along the community. And those belong to America, the US government. So you are able to drive, anybody can drive those roads. But the smaller roads that actually lead into the community, no, if you do not have prior permission, as an outsider, you cannot drive into the communities. So what usually most nations will do is they will open up some areas for tourists. So, for example, in the Navajo Nation, they have a visitor center. And there you can hire a local guide who will take you in his 4x4, his Jeep, or her Jeep, and will show you some of the scenic areas around their nation. And actually, I had a very interesting guide His name was Richard, which is a very common English name. But his mother was called Bitterwater. So she actually had a Native American name, but he did not. And he had spent a lot of his youth outside his community, but he decided to come back and help to promote tourism. So he took me to many places, and you can hire local guides for a certain amount of time there. Originally I had 2.5 hours, but we ended up 4 hours because I kept asking questions, and he was very excited to answer. So took us here, took us there, but I never did get to see the community because I didn't have any prior permission to do research or something like that. So a nation means that they have their own president, they have their own schools, and their schools are bilingual, their native language plus English. They have their own police, and so they're a nation within a nation. Now in Australia, the accessibility issue is that many Indigenous communities are actually very remote. It's very it's difficult to reach. It's a long time of travel. It's not easy travel to reach Indigenous communities in Australia. But Taiwan is very easy. You can just drive a car, drive a scooter, take a van, go on a bus, whatever, and you can reach an Indigenous community. Now, whether this is actually good for Taiwan's Indigenous communities themselves is a big topic. But like we can see now during the COVID pandemic that in Taiwan during this outbreak period that people have tried to go to Indigenous communities and Indigenous communities have not wanted to let people in. Now, they should be able to have the right to say, no, this is an outbreak. It's not a time for people to come in to our communities. So in Taiwan, Indigenous communities are very, very accessible. So as I said, for tourists, that's a great thing. But for the communities themselves, maybe not so much. Okay, so then let me talk about how to introduce Taiwan's Indigenous culture to international visitors. So it's very important that you learn something about the culture yourself. You learn something about this community, who these people are, what tribe are they from, what are the characteristics of this tribe, and not to have your own stereotypes, especially if they're negative stereotypes. I remember once I was leading a tourism bureau tour. I had just one couple from Canada, but there were several tours kind of going at the same time to mostly the same places. So there was another tour guide next to me, and they were from America. My couple was from Canada, but she was telling her group some of negative stereotypes about Taiwan's Indigenous people, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And so my clients knew that I have this passion about Taiwan's Indigenous culture. So I said, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but I really think I have to tell her something. And so they're like, okay, we understand, go ahead. So in Chinese, I was like, I don't think it's really a good idea that as a tour guide, we pass on these negative stereotypes to people who come to Taiwan. Because these stereotypes, number one, are not true. Okay, so we're passing on things that are not true to our clients. And we always want to show Taiwan in a positive light. So it's very important that you don't pass on, if you have negative stereotypes, don't pass them on, okay? And to be culturally sensitive. For example, one community I visited is a community of the Saidaka tribe. And they were telling me about an experience they had. It was their very first time to have a group from China. And they had heard a lot of bad stories from other Indigenous communities, so they were a little nervous. But they said when this group came, they were so quiet, and they wouldn't even look them in the eye. It's like this. And so they were wondering, why is this happening? What's going on? And so they asked the tour guide, what happened. And so the tour guide told the people of that community, oh, before we arrived, I told them that if they are not good, this will happen. Okay, yes, before 1930s, there was headhunting among Taiwan's indigenous people, but of course not now. And so also, again, passing on the wrong information to this group. And the thing that I found very sad about that is, as I mentioned, interaction is so important. It's important to have those connections. So as tour guides, we need to be a bridge. We don't want to stop the interaction between our clients and the local people, because this is what they're going to go back and remember. So we want to make that happen. We want to make that smooth. We want to make that meaningful. And then we also should be, helping to educate people. I remember once I went to another community, and they were talking about, they were cutting pieces of slate, stone, that they were going to put on the front of their houses. But they have to collect it and collect enough before they can actually do all the work. So they cut into pieces, and then they put it on the side until they can gather enough. But then a domestic tour group will come through, and they find that all of these are gone. All that they've collected is gone. And so I told the community, I said, actually, part of this, this means you need to educate. You need to educate the tour guides so that they can educate their group. Actually, this area is a protected area in Taiwan. You're not even allowed to take one little pebble out of this area, not to mention a piece of stone. Okay, so this is something we need to educate our clients about. So what you can and cannot do. And then, Taiwan's indigenous culture, the more you learn, I'm sure you will find it's a very beautiful, a very rich culture. And this is what we should pass on. And also, when I've come to discover that many of my clients, when they go into indigenous communities, they're very worried about offending the local people. So it's very important that we also educate them on, okay, what you can and cannot do here. They're going to ask, so you should know, because Westerners, of course, they're traveling to a different country, it's a different culture, it's a different language. So they really want to know what is culturally okay and what is not. And if they don't know, they will start to feel very nervous. I think Westerners are very easy, for the most part, easygoing, as long as they feel secure. But when they don't feel so secure, they're not so easygoing, and that can be quite difficult for a tour guide. So you should also do what you can to put them at ease, because I think most indigenous people would want their visitors to be at ease, to enjoy their time in the community. And to also, they want to be able to interact with people who come to their community. So again, if we can do what we can to facilitate that. Okay.
All right, thank you. So really, I really appreciate that. So I really learned from Cheryl about a few things. The first thing that I learned is very important. What she said, indigenous tourism is not about Aboriginal dance. In the past, we have a program, go to the Aboriginal village, then also everybody dance. That I think that is old-fashioned style. In the future, people expect from Cheryl's share with us is that people want to know more about the life of indigenous people. And also today, I also learned from Cheryl a new word, PC, political correct. So we don't want to call people Aboriginal. Well, it's okay, but it's difficult. Like 原住民、山地人, we're talking about the same thing. But I think 原住民 is a more political correct. And also personally myself, I like to call the visitor, people call international visitor. I don't like to call them foreigner. Foreigner is like you are from outside. Okay, I'm not. So I think today I also learned from the PC, politically correct. And also another word is the big bus tourism. In the past, I was hired by the travel agent for so many years. I also always take on the big bus, so I have to do some in a group, and everything is on the schedule, and then travel agent they market Taiwan and make Taiwan, create Taiwan image into particular places, and everybody have to follow, get up very early and follow the itinerary to go. But nowadays there were internet. People can search and arrange their tour by themselves. And something that they can do is the language, like the international visitor from outside. They don't speak Mandarin, then they need someone can help them. Then that will be us, our English tour guide. It's our opportunity. So it's a good thing to learn that today, that the tourism is not just a big bus tourism. Also, maybe small group of people, then they can do some of the niche tourism, go to a very special places, and that will be the opportunity for the English tour guide. We're not only counting on the travel agent, but also we can learn from the people that are from the outside that they can contact us by online. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about a knowledge of the social sense, and for the different country, taboo and cultural difference by Albert. So Albert.
Yes. After Cheryl having been sharing the experience with the indigenous tourism, I would like to sharing one thing for you, because the indigenous tourism in Taiwan, they have the most important reach part is for the past 200 years, a lot of beautiful of wild, because it's just located in protection areas. Most people cannot enter in to visit. Until now, maybe until 20 years ago, it just will be open. So this will be the very, very important indigenous tourism that can be providing for. And I also have been see 20 years in the Brong tribe in Taidong. They just started. That's just build a very simple house for the visitors, and also we'll be sharing some life experience, like use some white vegetable and make the cooking and sharing the lifestyles. This is very interesting for most people. Now we'll be talking about some social sense and also the taboos of the numbers for the foreigners. For the most Western, while you just shake hands, you must look at the person you shake with them, and also not to look at the other side. Otherwise, we'll be thinking this will be some kind of insulting. And also courtesy for the morning, and also goodbye and see you tomorrow, or good night, or something. This will be thinking is very important. For the American, they think the white is a purity, yellow is harmonic, and white cat will be thinking this will be lucky, but black will be thinking useful for the furnace, and also they will be worried about to see the black cat during the night times. Tongue out will think some kind of insult, so never do these kind of things. But some people just accustomed. You must change this habit. And the bad presenting the Thalaku and the Avir. And never ask the age of a lady, salary, cost of clothing, and everything a private belonging. For British, they always will be say, please, excuse me, thank you. Even to their family, they also will be do the same things. for afternoon tea, they must put the milk or lemon, fresh lemon first, then will be pouring the tea. If you put the tea first, then will be the milk and the lemon. This will be ear bread for the English people. They don't like have the portrait and the elephant symbol on the decoration, especially like the peacock, and they don't like it. Elephant will be thinking will be stupid. Peacock will be thinking will be some kinky bird and a disaster bird for them. Even the fanning of a peacock tail will be thinking this will be some kind of bluff and show off. And closed leg and wide open leg during the sitting, talking with the other people will be thinking the ear manner. So never close the leg or wide open your leg to talking with somebody while you just have meeting or discussion. And also forbidden to have the whisper in front with the others. This will be some very bad manners. And don't forget, never pat on the shoulders for the English. This will be some kind of insult. And the lily flower is for the funeral. Never use it as a gift for everyone. For French, on time is very important, but not to be early. If you're just early, you must waiting on the time. And this will be thinking will be politely. And the dressing wear and suitable makeup is a courtesy. Just like the lady of French. The lip colors will distinguish for the morning time, afternoon time, and the night time. There will be thinking the yellow flower will be some kind of unfaithful. So never give the yellow flower. And also the spade symbol will be thinking unlucky. They do not like a dark green because this will be reminded to think about the German soldier, especially the Nazi during World War II times. And the crown symbol is presenting for the idiot and scarlet women. So don't you, even your dressing must be attention for these parts. And never give the perfume or cosmetic to the lady unless he's your family. This will be in the French will be thinking this way. Otherwise, the people will be thinking you have some kind of purpose. For German, on time, discipline, confidence, pay attention to credibility. And also, there will be passion to friends. Firstly, it's a meet a person. And will be called full name, not only the name, because the name is just for the friends. Or maybe you just call Mr. with his family's name, will be thinking polite. For my last experience, and the German just like climbing and very like the hiking. Just I visit the Yellow Park. They didn't visit the first and second part. They simply just go to Augusta to hiking with the mountain. They think will be the wonderful things with them. And also for the men, they never have a bare head because this will be thinking some new Nazi for them. And never whisper at public. And laws for the German is for the funeral. So it cannot be used for the gift. They prefer the pork, especially the sausage, and better than the beef. Beer and wine will be simultaneously on the meal. You must drink the beer first, then will be the wine. They think this will be some kind of health way for the life. And forbidden the color will be thinking the brown and red and dark blue. Clothing and wrapping paper, not to use any symbol of Nazi. This is very important. Now we just will be talking about the taboos of numbers. For the East Asia country and American, they mostly will be don't have a 13. They probably use the 12A replaced for the 13. And for the Asian people, 4, meaning for the death. And 14 will be thinking about the go to death for Chinese. 18, they will be mentioning about the 18 layers of hair. So they don't have these kinds. So in some hotel, they don't just simply don't have 4 and 13, 14 and 18. They probably use the 3A, replace 4, and the 12A, replace the 13, 12B for the 14, and the 70A for the 18. For the most Western country, they also just will be forbidden for the 13. Like in the theater, the 13 column just missing. And seat 13 also will be missing. They will be replaced with air. So this will be a smart way. For the most Western, they will be thinking the 13 is an unlucky number. And with the Friday, this will be most horrible. For Japanese, they think 4 will be presenting for the death. 6, because this will be roku. And the roku also will be mentioned about the roku delasi. This meaning for the West and the useless. So they don't like the 4 or 6. They also prefer the odd number, especially 3, 5, or 6. So they have a day will be in the 15th of November, and this will be for the 7, 5, or 3 years old kids. In Korea, 4 also is presenting for the 4. And so they don't have a 4th floor. And even in the restaurant, they don't have a 4th table. But 3 will be thinking a lucky number because they think 3, including for the creating for the universal, and totally and perfectly and holy. For Singapore people, will be thinking the 4, 6, 7, 13, 37, and 69 is a negative number. 69 maybe will be thinking of the homosexual. And the most negative number for them will be thinking the 7. So this will be a little different with the most Westerns. And one thing I have to mention, if you entertainment for your client from the Singapore, why you just have the meal? You must have everyone sit on the table. Then can be sending for all the meal to the table. Otherwise, we think this will be some kind of ear bread. They think that be maybe this dishes will be left over on the table. So you must serve finally just the all seatware. For French and English and American, we will take a say 13 and Friday is negative. 7, most will be thinking is a lucky number because God spending about 6 days creating the world, and the 7 days will be just take a rest. For Greece, they prefer 12 because 12 Titan god and the 12 Olympus god, and also 12 Hercules works. So they prefer the 12. For German, they prefer the 4 because in German they will be said fear, V-I-E-R. But V-I-E-L, fear, is a marrying, so they prefer the 4. For Dutch, the forbidden 6. since this will be similar sound of the sex. And also the sex always will be the head of the tone home numbers. One thing I have to mention, the Dutch will be thinking the golden color will be thinking the royal colors. So finally just have the birthday of the queen, and now will be the king. And they always will be dressing the golden colors. For the Italian, we will think the 17 is forbidden, because in Latin, the word vixi will be 16, but also with the meaning still alive. Then 17 will be end of the day, end of the life. So they don't like the 17. For Indian people, 6 are presenting disease, 8 presenting death. And 137 will be thinking unlucky numbers. For Thailand people, 9 is a go ahead and the development. 6 is behind, so they don't like the 6. They prefer 9. But 5 for them is a haha. So if they say 555 is a ha ha ha. Okay, this will be some taboos for the numbers for foreigners.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I also did learn a lot of things. So Albert mentioned one thing is that when we shake hand with the people, it's better to look at the eye of the other side. And also one of the things that most of the people don't pay attention to that is Western people. When they shake hand, they hold your hand firmly. But it's not just like touch your hand, just like this. People call it that dead fish shake hand. This is not polite. However, this is not everywhere, because there will be difference between the Western people and some of the culture, like in the Middle East. Like Arab people, if you want to shake hand with her, you don't want to hold them too firmly. Otherwise, you will scare them away. And also in Western people, they have something called the personal space. People don't like to get you get too close to them. Okay, the people have unconsciously keep a distance with you. Okay, so they are public place about 3 meters away. So this is the study about that. And also they are social space. If you want to make friends, interact with the people talking, it's about 1.2 meter. And the personal space is about 45 centimeter. If you get too close to that person, people feel not very comfortable. Okay, but this is the difference, totally different in the Middle East people. When in the Middle East, in Arabic people, when he want to make friends with you, he will get close with you very, very closely. Sometimes even when they first see you, they will kiss at your face and touch you. And touching is for the Western people is not okay. However, in the Middle East, it is okay. So these are a lot of things that make a lot more different. A lot of things that we can learn about. Also in the culture of Chinese culture, we want to become very humble. Okay, when we say people, being polite, say, okay, I'm sorry, I don't know about things. Don't do this. Don't tell people that my English is not so good. I'm sorry. Don't say this one to the Western people, because Western people are directly person. If you being polite said my English is not so good, then they will believe you. They think your English is not so good. Then they will think their OS. They will think, why don't you just go home? Send someone who can speak English very well. Okay, so when you don't mention about this, a lot more thing that is different from the people from the outside of a country. That's why we're here with Albert and Cheryl to share with you some of our ideas. So next, we're going to have another two important topics today. Before that, we're going to take a break. We're going to take another break. So next, we're going to talk about the key competence and the characteristics of a successful tour guide should have. And also, very important, how tour guide can earn living during the pandemic, during the COVID-19. Okay, so we're going to take a break for 5 minutes. Don't go away. Okay, see you. Hello, welcome back to the practical, experience sharing online workshop. My name is Dennis again, and we have a guest speaker, Cheryl Robbins and Albert. Okay, so in last session we talked about the cultural difference. Okay, so we learned that when we use English to introduce people, not only the language, not only the verbal, also the nonverbal. And of course, they are written and also visual. Visual is the gesture, the difference. And then also different country have a different culture. Okay. So there's a study from the anthropologist Edward Hall. Okay. The silent language, he wrote a book, said people in the whole world are generally divided into high contact culture and the low contact culture. In very simple way to say that high contact culture is more complicated. Okay, low contact culture is more direct, simple. Like Western people, they are just simply happy is happy, yes is there, no is no. But however, when it come back to Chinese people, sometimes yes mean is no, no mean yes. Okay, there's a saying from the movie called 我的少女时代，林真心 ，OK， she said， OK， 她说啊，女人啊是很难捉摸的，女生说没事就是有事，没关系就是有关系。然后后来我才知道，女生说她我再也不理你的时候，她就是真的很在乎你。This is really about the high contact culture, very complicated. They don't tell you the yes or no directly. So this is something we need to pay attention to. And also, for the Western people, we really don't want to become too humble. Otherwise, it's very difficult to communicate with them. Okay. So next, we're going to talk about what are the key competence and characteristics of the successful tour guide should have. So I think our guest speaker had the experience. So we first will invite Cheryl to share with us about her experience.
Okay. Well, I think many of us know what we need to do to be a good tour guide. You know, you need to be a lifelong learner. You need to be a people person, a problem solver. You need to be flexible. You need to be organized. You need to be on time. You need to be honest. But I want to emphasize one point, and that is sensitivity. And I'll use a couple of stories maybe to make this more understandable. I remember that I had one group that was a mix, 6 people from Canada and the US. And they were here for King of the Mountain bicycle race, okay? So a few years ago. And I remember we had one stop in Jiufen, and we went to a tea house. And I ordered a very nice Oriental Beauty tea from Hsinchu. And because, you know, to show them how the tea ceremony, the Chinese tea ceremony is done. So when the tea came, the first thing they asked was for sugar. And so the waitress who was serving us, she looked at me, and I looked at her, and I said, 不好意思，西方人. So, and so they didn't know what to do because they don't really have sugar, because, you know, usually in Taiwan, tea isn't drank with sugar. But they did a very nice job. They looked all around their tea house, and they found one small pack of sugar. And I said, so this is it, because, you know, in Taiwan, people don't usually add sugar to their tea. But this is something that they felt they needed to have to enjoy the tea. So we have to be sensitive to that, and to try to find, you know, a good solution to that. So this is the way they drink tea. This is their culture. And even though it's not very common to do that in Taiwan, we still have to be respectful. The other thing about being sensitive is we've talked about how direct Westerners can be. I like this, I don't like this. But sometimes we also want to be polite. So sometimes we may think something is not so great or we're not so happy, but we don't want to say anything because we feel embarrassed to say something or we feel it's not polite to say something. At this point, you really need, it's difficult with the mask on, right? But you need to be able to look at people's facial expressions and understand what those mean. Their expression on their face may be different than what is coming out of their mouth. So I can give you an example. The very first tour I did was for a group of American women living in Taipei. And I asked them to be my test group. And so I took them to Nanzhuang in Miaoli. I took them to a couple of indigenous communities there, and we were having lunch. And since this was my first tour, I didn't think about communicating with the restaurant about what should be on the menu and what shouldn't. And so I noticed that they weren't eating very much. And so I asked them, I was like, I think you're still hungry, right? They're like, no, we're full. But I saw on their face, it was written, hungry, still hungry. So I thought, uh-oh. So I took them to a nearby coffee shop that I knew, and where they serve waffles. And so they were so happy. It's like, just really like ate those waffles. Like, yeah, I knew they were hungry. So that's what I mean when you have to be a little bit sensitive. Sometimes not always just hearing what people say, but also looking at their face and seeing how they're really feeling about this situation. One of the things with private tours is we have some flexibility in our time. So we also have to know, like, if people really like this place, you'll see it on their face. And so you can stay longer. But if they don't like a certain place or they're bored of it or they want to move on, you'll also kind of see it in their body language, in their facial expressions. So you'll know that it's time to move on to another place. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is this kind of sensitivity. Okay.
All right, so very good. So very important is that you have to know you have to be able to tell what the people think by reading their faces. Because really people sometimes being polite, they don't tell you. However, human nature, something that their feeling actually can show on their face. This is one of the very important ability that a tour guide should have. Okay, what about Albert? What do you think? What the key competence and characteristic of successful tour guide should have?
For my personal 10 years experience and my personal think the first we must have the patience and the tolerance for the foreigners. If we be arrangement for the meals for them, we probably will be requested the restaurant prepare for the spoon, fork, or knife for them. This is very important. And the second thing will be acknowledged for the different visitors' culture, background, and customs. And the third thing will be always on time at the meeting time. And also will be simply telling them what's the schedule for today, and also will be include the forecasting of the weathers, especially for some person maybe have a long period traveling time. You must tell them what the weather forecasting will be for the following days. For nowadays, we have been very simply use some application, can be found maybe 7 days or maybe sometimes can be extended about 14 days weather forecasting for your clients. 6 years ago, I found a lot of foreigners that probably visited Taiwan with a longer time. I have been accompanying one Englishman for 4 weeks, and some German will be 2 weeks or 3 weeks is often can be met in the restaurant. So during that time, you must arrangement your visitor schedules for them, and it depends on them. Just like my first time to meet the English person. Visit time about 4 years. He's a very rich person and running a very good company for them. And he just simply take about 1 month for traveling. And actually, I just followed the usual schedule from the 9 a.m. To the 5 p.m. And I found he just very, very tired. Then we changed the schedules. Then maybe from the 11 or 11:30 after he enjoy all the facility in the hotel. Then we'll be out and we'll be back before 5. Because he's a VIP and every hotel, he can be very enjoy a very, very good meals, or sometimes the meal is free. And also for some German, I found it most of them, they just will be ask a lot of questions about the botanical or maybe interesting for different insect of birds. So you try to find some information for them. It's very important. Maybe you didn't know it immediately, but we can use the Google. Maybe can be quickly to give the answer. This is a very good response for them. 28 years ago, I just first visited Switzerland. I 5 years in the Geneva. I joined a half-day tours. And a very old tour guide, probably have a 78 or maybe 80 years old. He just give me a standard. It's a continue all the talking about the everything for your client. But not every client can be accepted. Because I have been studying about German. I have been met one couple. They probably sometimes want to chatting with each other. But I continue to say. Then they said, I'm an other papagai. It's old parent. Continue and taki and never stop. So you probably will be very, very sensitive to understanding what your clients need. And where arrangement for the tour is very important because the different visiting site have a different distance, driving distance. You must pre-planning and on your notes. And my personally is just very complicated. I will be doing my personal tour schedule. One will be English for my clients. That will be include all the hotels' telephone number. And sometimes also the weather forecasting will be inside of this one. And then will be another Chinese for my driver. That will be easy for him to understand him fast the schedule will be. And the most important things I think for the driver is never speed up and never overtake. And also will be request for your arrangement sequence, which one will be better. And there will be family with the traffic in different city. And this is very important. And I always will be like to sharing some knowledge with my clients. Why we just visit in the temple. I think the Longshan Temple is a very good example because they just following some old Chinese style. I will be say the palace building inside will be the square pole, and there will be slot in the hole, and outside will be round pole. This will be standing about the philosophy for the Chinese. 严以律己，宽以待人. That will be demand yourself strictly, but will be easily forgiving the people. But outside of the round pole, they simply have in the bottom of the pillar, they have a metal ball that can be easily moving. This will be the elastic system for the construction for Chinese building. That's why the Forbidden City, having big experience about more than 1,500 years, never collapsed. They simply use these constructions. And also, inside of the square pole will be 12. Outside of the 12 round pole is 12. That's totally about the 24. It's simply implicate this will be the farmers' calendars 24 seasoning times for Chinese. So maybe we can simply use it this way, introducing a lot of culture and lifestyle things sharing with the foreigners. There will be fully understanding about Taiwan cultures. Thank you.
All right. Good. Thank you very much, Albert. And because of the influence of the COVID-19, and nowadays most of the travel industry has no business. And this also influence the income of the tour guide because we don't have job. So our last topic will be how tour guides can earn a living during the pandemic. So I think they have a lot of share with Cheryl has a lot of experience that can share with Cheryl.
Thank you. Okay, so on this topic of how we can still earn a living during this pandemic, I have a few points. The first one is we shouldn't forget that there are still a lot of international expats, people from other countries who are in Taiwan. And just like you, we are stuck here. We can't go anywhere else, okay, because of the pandemic. And so there are people who want to travel around Taiwan. And so this is still a market. It's a kind of domestic tourism, but it's tourism for international people in Taiwan during this time. So we shouldn't forget about these people. And there are people who from all markets who want something a little bit cheaper, from something to something more luxurious and more in depth. So there are all these opportunities already here that we can tap into. Now, one of the things that I've been looking into, I mentioned earlier, is I've been doing a lot of research watching what the tourism industries in Europe and North America are doing, how they are reacting, and how they are transitioning during this pandemic. And so from this, actually, I've learned that they are starting to develop a lot of online tour experiences. And so because of this, actually, I'm taking an online course from a tourism academy in Canada right now on how to develop online tours. And I'm not talking about just being a YouTuber. Of course, that's good as well if that's something you're interested in. But right now on YouTube, it's a little bit difficult to earn a living. You have to have quite a lot of followers. But basically what online tours are is you can create recorded content or you can do live content. So for example, if I can go to an indigenous community and I can record a tour there. We talk to people there. We can, as Albert said, we can go to some of the ecotourism sites around the community, and then I could record that, and then that could be sold. People could either download it for a fee or as part of a subscription, or as they could donate whatever they felt they would like to for this particular tour, or they could arrange for a live tour. So basically we set a time and I take my tablet computer and I say, here, we are here, and this is so-and-so, and this is a member of this community, and people can ask me questions because they're live online. And so usually this kind is paid by the hour. Some people also call it virtual tour guide. Okay, so this is something that can be done live. One travel agency in the US called Devour Tours is actually a food tour agency. And so the first thing they did was they asked their guides to develop recipes from where they were from. And they put this together in a kind of ebook. The ebook was marketed free of charge to get people to come to the website. But then what they did was they asked each tour guide to develop a class, like how to create a dish from, let's say, Spain or from Italy, or to teach people how to sample wine, how to taste wine, like what would be the process and what the flavors should be. And so these are all ways that people are earning a living online right now, is by developing their own tours and content. Now, although we're still in lockdown, there's still other things that we can do. Is if you have a specialty, you can lecture, guest lecture, you can write an ebook, you can create a podcast, you can be an internet influencer, you can teach English online because you know English. And a lot of people want to learn English because they want to travel, and all the travel terms already as tour guides. So this is something where you can share your knowledge at this moment and still be able to make a living, or at least to make some money while we wait for people to return.
All right, thank you. What about Albert? What do you think?
I think for the pandemic periods, a lot of people just lost a lot of job opportunity for them. But I think this will be the time for most of the tour guides, even the tour managers, will be thinking about they can just have the second or third tenant for their living. I think the first thing, most of the travel agencies, they just doing the domestic tour to traveling, and they probably have the chance to join. But this will be the limits about the opportunity. And the second will be some people just join the express delivery. And the third, as I know, that have some government short employment. Like this, I have some friends that they just work in the airport, and will be help the administration of the health and the welfare department doing some examines, procedure works, and doing some translation for some foreigners. And also, some people, if they just a family with the using the network, will be doing some online shopping. This also will be the same way. And also will be thinking about the different job transfers. There will be have multiple choice. Maybe it can be according to your past experience, choosing the best one and allow you to pass in these pandemic periods.
All right, thank you very much. So I think this is very excellent idea that they share with us. Okay, in my opinion, okay, one of the competency that a tour guide should have is that you should build up the PR for yourself, public relationship. So different between PR and advertisement is that when you do the advertisement thing, that you're telling people that you are so good. However, the PR is different. The PR is other people are saying about you, okay? And the people generally more trust the PR than advertising. So therefore, you want to build up, you want to create your personal image during the COVID-19 era. Nowadays, social media are very convenient. Try to let people know that who you are. Okay. The good thing about the PR is that the PR is someone say about you. Your personal image is based on other people's personal experience. People think that you're good. Opinion, the difference between opinion and fact is even you are not so good. However, people like you and people think that you're good. And then you become a very popular person. So this is very important thing that a person to build up during also the relationship between not only the travel agent and between your friend of tour guide is also important. Try to get in touch to each other and then wait until whenever there's an opportunity, then people can let you know and also can introduce you. And these will create a lot more opportunity for you. So today, really thanks for our guest speaker, Cheryl and Albert, to share with their excellent idea. And also, really thank you for your time and to participate. And in the future, there will be a lot more workshops, and then we were going to see you in the future. Thank you for your time, and bye-bye. Thank you.